All right, good morning, everyone. We have one last person on their way, so we'll have a quorum soon. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and go around the room and do introductions, and then we will skip down to CMAQ program update, non-action items. So you want to get us started?
Megan Brooks in for Mayor Martin, City of Alcoa.
Don Walker in for Mayor Mitchell of Blount County.
Dallas DeArmond, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
James Temple in for Mayor Larry Waters.
Amber Scott Kelso, City Administrator, Lenore City, in for Mayor Tony R. Akins.
Brian Boone for Mayor Andy White, City of Maryville.
Mayor Ron Williams, Farragut.
Doug Burton, TPO Coordinator.
Terry Frank, Anderson County Mayor.
Tom Claybo, City of Knoxville, in for Mayor Kincaid.
Troy Hibbert, T.OCT in for Governor Billy.
Stacy Morrison, TDOT Community Transportation Planning Manager.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Next, we will go to Craig with a CMAQ program update.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that. This is an update to some TIP programming, as well as kind of catching you up with a little bit of where we are, both statewide and locally, on CMAQ programming and process changes. In your packet, there was a memo dated there just before Halloween from TDOT about changing the programming policy to essentially draw down unobligated funds statewide as the state prepares for that August redistribution. This is kind of a parallel track to the funding swap that was before the board earlier in the year that did position the state to be much more competitive in the August redistribution and bringing some additional revenue to the state from those unused dollars in other states. The programming change as it moves down to what we're actually doing with the TIP is that going forward, TDOT will be, and again, they have program authority for that statewide CMAQ dollars. They will program NEPA and design phases, and then right-of-way and construction awards for those dollars may not be represented or would not be represented until those phases approach notice to proceed for that, so that they're able to just have a little bit more flexibility with what they're doing statewide in that. They do want us to remind you that the original award amounts for existing CMAQ projects are not rescinded, and we'll continue to work with the sponsors and TDOT to determine those phases as they get ready to bring them back in and fold them into the TIP so that they can obligate when they are ready. This does apply to development of the next TIP, which will kick off very shortly and proceed through next year. And also to currently programmed CMAQ dollars. We're working with local sponsors that the currently programmed CMAQ dollars that get impacted by this are modifications to remove construction funding for two projects here regionally. Knoxville's the ATMS Phase 1 project. We'll be removing the construction phase for that project, as well as Oak Ridge Signal Timing Optimization Phase 3, removing the construction phase. And essentially they're not ready to obligate those funds, so we're really not impacting anything, just being more transparent about where they are in the project delivery phase. Regarding the memo, again, that is in your packet. I'll pause for a moment if there's any questions about the programming, this policy change, and if not, got a little bit of an update then on PM 2.5, which is a related matter. Assuming they're not, then a little bit of a catch up on CMAQ PM 2.5 dollars. So this is a separate allocation statewide for projects that specifically work to improve CMAQ PM 2.5 or PM 2.5 emissions. Those are particulate matters, 2.5 microns and smaller. Currently, the Knoxville region is the only eligible area in the state. So those funds have been, we've been authorized to program those dollars here regionally, specifically for fiscal 25 and moving forward. That allocation annually is just over $5 million for fiscal 25. The current balance, we brought about $500,000 into the year, so the current balance is about $5.6 million right now. I will point out that we have pending obligations for the projects that you see there in the table. for various phases. Middlebrook Pike getting ready to go to construction. The city's accelerated bus corridor stop, some additional NEPA and design dollars there, as well as Oak Ridge signal timing phase 2, the construction phase. So between those, that's about $2.3 million that's getting ready to be obligated. And then we are, again, that Knoxville traffic control, that's the ATMS phase 1. We're working at making some revisions there. In addition to removing construction phase, we'll be programming some NEPA design and right-of-way dollars there in this fiscal year for a total of just over $700,000 for that. So when you take those anticipated obligations, the available fiscal 25 balance is about $2.5 million. Again, there's that dollar that you see again. What we would like to draw that dollar down here through fiscal 2025. We would anticipate that right now we'll have some additional cost overruns. We're having conversations with our partners on that. And that would be the first look to make sure what do we anticipate for cost overruns, and any additional funds, then we would seek out some potential other projects, or potentially sometimes we flex some of that money, some of our transit partners to get it off the books. But we're having conversations with Knox County as well as the city on that Middlebrook Pike project for the city and the ATMS phase 2 project for the county on potential cost overruns. So kind of seeing where we are there. And I will pause again. That was a lot of numbers, I know. I would just remind our local agencies that we'll be working with them on that, and whatever, if we have additional funds, which I would anticipate that we won't use all of that $2.5 million balance on overruns, but it may be a fairly modest figure. TBD on future years for what that's going to look like. And I know Mike's going to talk a little bit about some potential implications of revisions to those standards. And if there are none, I think I'll probably hand that off to Mike to talk about that standard update.
Good morning, Mike.
Yep. Good morning. So at the technical committee, we actually had this combined with Craig's item, but I decided to split it out as its own agenda item today to give you guys an update on the PM 2.5 air quality standards that EPA has been revising. So this directly impacts that CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Improvement funding. As Craig mentioned, since we're the only area in Tennessee right now that's subject to this standard as a previous non-attainment area, we're the only ones that get that funding. It's a set aside of the program. There's a standard CMAQ funding that TDOT picks projects with statewide. We have to apply for those, but this funding pot comes directly to Knoxville as of the last couple of years that TDOT's made that designation or, decision to give us that authority over that funding. However, that might change because EPA just changed the standard earlier this year. EPA reviews all of their standards every 5 years or so to make sure they're still meeting health, the scientific health standards, and the environment. They decided the current standard was not protective enough, so they lowered that from 12 micrograms per cubic meter down to 9.0. So the result of this is that there may be other areas coming into non-attainment with that standard in Tennessee and across the nation that would dilute that pot of money potentially. So backing up, I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but just in case, the particulate matter, PM 2.5, are these ultra small particles, 20th size of a human hair. So these can get down into the lungs. These have a lot more health effects than some of the other pollutants out there because they bypass your defenses and get into the lungs and affect your cardiovascular and everything. And so especially for folks that have issues breathing and lung disease and asthma, so forth. So that's why these standards are important. PM comes from a lot of different sources. This slide from EPA shows a few, talks about industries and unpaved roads. Fortunately, we don't have a whole lot of unpaved roads here, but it also comes from diesel trucks. They've changed standards on diesel vehicles. They have particulate traps on them now, and also comes from brake and tire wear as you drive down the road. So there's many different sources. So Knoxville area, as I mentioned, we're eligible because we were previously non-attainment for PM 2.5. It goes back quite a ways, back to originally the 1997 annual standard at 15 micrograms per cubic meter. It took several years to get formally designated for that standard. It went through lawsuits and so forth. So it was actually effective in April of 2005. And this is the geographic area, Anderson, Knox, Blount, Loudoun, and this small part of Roane County where the Kingston TVA plant, that was the geographic area. It was also the same area for the 2006 daily standard. So for PM 2.5, they look at an annual exposure as well as a peaking, daily exposure. So we were non-attainment for that 2006 daily standard. We did come back into attainment in 2017. So now we're considered a maintenance area for 20 years. So out till 2037. The maintenance area still triggers these requirements you've heard me talk about before. Transportation conformity. We have to analyze our plan to make sure all the projects that are implemented do not cause us to not meet that standard. So we have emission budgets that we do that with. In 2012, they lowered that annual standard down to 12, and actually all of Tennessee and our area met that standard. So we were never designated non-attainment. We were attainment for that. And when they did that, they revoked that 97 standard because obviously it's a more stringent standard. They got rid of the 97 standard, and we were not subject to that one anymore. So that's what also kicked out a lot of the other areas in Tennessee. They were only for the annual standard and not the daily standard. So that's why it's wound up. We're the only ones left because of that daily standard. So now here we are, the 2024 standard again, as I mentioned, has been reduced. So EPA is going to be working through a process to designate areas for that. There's a more detailed timeline or schedule in your packet. This is kind of the major dates here. Again, they announced the standard back earlier this year in February. So in February 2025, 1 year later, this will be like initial recommendations of what states think are not meeting that standard. So it's based on a three-year average of monitoring data, 2021 through 2023. And so then EPA goes back and forth to the states looking at more recent data, and the actual final designations will be in February 2026. And you get another year, the three-year average rolls forward 2022 to 2024. So hopefully maybe the new 2024 number is better than the 2021 number and your average meets the standard, but that remains to be seen. But that's what the final designations are based on. So this map shows across the country right now, the ones based on the 3 years, 2021 through 2023, that are not meeting that 9.0 standard. The ones highlighted in this table, which are hard to read the numbers, are the ones that would be affected in the Tennessee area. So there's one in Knox County here. The one in Knox County, we're at 9.1. So a 9.0 is okay, but anything above that, you're out of compliance. So we're just right on the margin. These other areas in Tennessee are a little bit higher. There's one in Nashville area and also just across the state line from Chattanooga in Georgia. So those could get pulled in. And there's the one, the Knoxville one. That's at the old rural high school, if anybody remembers where it was. So one thing that they're going to be looking at, though, is this exceptional event. If you remember in 2023, most of Canada was on fire at one point or another, and particularly in the summer. This was in July. This is a modeling of the smoke plume coming out of Canada and just heavily impacted Tennessee, as you can see on this little animation here. So this really spiked our numbers and is one reason why we're not meeting that standard because of that. Got factored in the values there. So you can make a petition to EPA, say, hey, this is not normal. We should take this out of the data, recalculate the number. But it is quite a major process to go through, a lot of technical data and back and forth. So it's not a slam dunk, even if it shows pretty obvious what's going on there. So in summary here, we are barely exceeding that standard, and that's based on not the final design value that will be used to designate with, but we may get in that initial preliminary designations that are due next February, we may get named as non-attainment, and they'll look at the geography of that. Not just that one monitor, they'll see what other counties are contributing to that. That's why that larger area I showed on the map was previously done. They looked at those counties and what's going on and the TVA plants, but they've closed the Bull Run plant, as Mayor Frank's probably aware. They're also going to close the Kingston plant, I think, in a couple of years, so that should help and affect that too. But hopefully with 2024, we'll show an improvement anyway and get out of that, but still remains to be seen. And then, of course, EPA is undergoing changes now, new administration coming in, and some talk about loosening regulations and so forth. We don't know what that effects that might have. This does come out of the Clean Air Act, so we're not real sure whether, stuff can be affected, by new administrations on those type of measures, but that is out there. Just always show these pictures showing how our air quality has improved due to the Clean Air Act over time. Back 20 years ago, this is kind of a typical day in the Smokies looking out at the Look Rock webcam. Now in the summer, most days it's pretty clear. So you can see the improvement in air quality out there. So anyway, that's an overview of what's going on with the EPA standards. We'll keep you up to date. Obviously, as information comes out and designations are proposed, we'll let you guys know, but just wanted to make you aware. So if there are any questions.
Any questions for Mike? Mike, I have one. If there is a petition filed, who is responsible for filing it and who makes the decision whether to file one?
I'm sorry.
On the wildfires.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that would be the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation, TDEC.
Okay.
I think they're looking into that, as well as each of the 4 big cities have their own local air management program. Knox County has one, the other 3 big cities. I think they're in discussions with EPA or with TDEC about whether they do that. Again, they have to figure out whether it's worth the effort involved, and if they think we might meet it anyway, they may just skip that. But I'm not sure. So.
Okay, thank you.
Is it the city of Knoxville or is it Knox County? Which one?
Knox County.
Knox County, okay.
They're in the health department, the Department of Air Quality Management here. It's the one that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mike? All right, thank you, Mike.
Sure. I'll just stay up here real quick for the next item, briefly. Mobility plan, or are we going to go back to regular order?
Let's go back to regular order since we have Pat here, and go ahead and get the minutes approved. We do have a quorum, and I saw that Dallas noted that, so.
Motion approved.
Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right. The TIP amendments. Who's presenting? Oh, Craig.
I
Great.
appreciate us going back again to get me some more steps in so we can trade off here. These are amendments to the TIP. We have a request from a TDOT project as well as one from the city of Knoxville and KCDC, kind of partners on. And they are both exempt from air quality. One, again, is an existing TDOT project. The new project is a City of Knoxville project and actually a new funding source that we'll talk a little bit about. The total impact of these amendments is adding about $25 million to the TIP. There's a small reduction in the local LSTBG dollars because those were previously obligated, so we're just correcting the programming record to reflect that. We're a substantial increase to the NHPP funding for the TDOT project, which essentially is a cost overrun for this project, just filling up that so that that project is fully funded. And then some RCN, which is Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods. You may recall the Reconnecting Communities award that the City of Knoxville and KCDC recently received in excess of $40 million to the community. And this is the first item that's an amendment programming some of those funds for some design phases for that project. The TDOT project, I-75 at Emory Road, State Route 131 interchange. We're amending this project, this diverging diamond interchange reconfiguration, essentially to increase the dollar phase to match up for construction funding, as well as then revising the programming from fiscal 24 to 25 to reflect that. Again, removing the local design funds because they were previously obligated, and increasing the construction phase $10 million to $33 million. And then the overall project cost update to $35.7 million, and reflecting that this is a TMA project, as well as then also indicating that previous funding had been obligated for local STBG funding. The second project, again, reconnecting communities. This is Urban Wilderness Gateway Park, which in fact then is that conversion of the James White Parkway. Most of you are probably familiar, have heard in some passing that this has been moving forward to kind of reconfigure that facility to relocate the vehicular travel to the what currently are the southbound lanes. So vehicular travel will be northbound and southbound on the west lanes, and conversion of the eastbound lanes to linear park facility, as well as some programming down there at the south termini under the Sevierville Pike Moody Bridge overpass. Again, this is a newly awarded project from Reconnecting Communities. NEPA and design dollars being added, a small amount of NEPA in 2025 and design dollars in 2026. Future construction will be out in a future fiscal year as that gets ready, and the total project cost is $25 million. As of right now, these are 100% programmed as 100% federally funded. The match overall for that dollar figure is reflected in kind of in total, but this individual phase is being promoted or being proposed as 100% federal funding right now. KCDC and the city are working with the feds on that overall project contract and where the matching funds are represented. May or may not be questions. If there are, I will pause. And if there are none, the staff, as well as the technical committee, did recommend approval for these project amendments, as well as then also reaffirming the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Process self-certification that says we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with regard to following the federal regs for planning these projects.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second? Thank you. Any further discussion or questions for Craig? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. We'll skip forward again now.
Welcome back, Mike, to the mobility plan.
Just brief.
Whoops.
That's fine. I just wanted to introduce this topic. We do have, I hope, Timothy Tressa-Levy on the line on Zoom. Are you there, Timothy?
I'm here, Mike. Can you
Cool.
hear me?
Yep, we hear you. So just want a quick introduction. Timothy from Stantec has been working with us on the Mobility Plan 2050 update. So he's here to give us a quick update on where things stand currently, and I'll advance the slides for him, and I'll let him take it away. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, so next slide, really short update here for us. So we are in that kind of last third of this process, signifying we just passed the second round of outreach and engagement, which would be that second triangle there. So we're really in the refining recommendations, prioritizing projects, and making sure this is fiscally constrained. Those are kind of the remaining items. Still on track for a kind of spring completion and adoption. Next slide, please. I want to give you a quick update of the outreach now that we've finished the second round. Obviously, we've had the website going this whole time and making updates continuously on the what and the why and the how. The online survey is up to nearly 800 survey participants launched from that project website, and we've been incorporating some of those feedback items already into what we've heard. I believe the interactive map points of interest is actually larger than that, if I'm assuming correctly. I think we're actually almost to 500. So sorry about that number being a little low. I remember it being like 460 the last time I looked. But really good feedback there on the interactive map, getting down to very specific intersections and corridors of interest, and we will be using that in our prioritization. The focus group listening sessions took place in January and February. We had 5 different group meetings there, very productive feedback. Like I said earlier, we've had 2 rounds of engagement, just completed the second round, which included a Monday evening event in Knoxville, a Wednesday evening event in Blount County, and a Tuesday afternoon virtual option that was not only attended very well at lunchtime, but also we sent out another online survey for people who could not attend that. And that survey's had 217 responses as well. So really good feedback, both in person and virtually. Next slide, please. I love this photo on the right. Obviously, it was standing room only coming to our event on Wednesday, the 23rd, I believe it was. If, in all honesty, that line was for voting, but we did capture many of those individuals to come give us some feedback on the transportation plan as well. So we did have a captive audience co-located there with a voting center. On the left-hand side, some of the activities included reviewing individual projects line by line on a map and table, but also some visioning exercise of how we should fund transportation investments. And then we aggregated all the results from all 3 of those meetings, including the digital ones and the survey after the fact. So have composite results for everything on how those results shook out and how we're going to use them. Next slide, I'll just give you 1 taste or 2 tastes of the differences there. On the left-hand side, amongst the in-person events, we asked about the most pressing problems to fix. And the top 3 on the left-hand side were sidewalk gaps, moving around without a car, and your daily commute or traffic congestion. When we asked that same question virtually to people online, granted, the pool is much larger. At the time, it was 196. There's the same order of responses, but you see the middle 2, daily commute and maintaining existing roads and bridges, all of a sudden became the #1 response. So kind of a shift in what people are willing to say in person, or maybe the demographics of people who show up to meetings in person versus the results of people who take that same survey at their leisure from their home on their spare time. Also want to note that the new roadway connections was something that was lowest priority amongst the in-person attendees and 5th highest, but a significant jump of those who took the survey virtually. The one below was about transportation dollars and funding, and I would say that the results were still the same trend line, but one category in particular, the ITS and smart technology, just took slivers of dollars from other pots, and it was 5% higher amongst online participants. So, people respond in different ways and different formats, and those are just kind of some observations of the differences we received with a larger audience and with more time to think through the question and take it at their own leisure. Okay, next slide, please. So right now, the current status of projects is about 160 of them, and I would say that 120 of them, thereabouts, were kind of rollovers from the previous MTP plan, and then new projects is about 40 of them, or a quarter. New projects this time around from 5 years ago. When we look at by category, and that's a really hard thing to shake down because a lot of them are just roadway category projects. They might include reconstruction, widening, maintenance, but they're also adding multimodal elements to them as well. So it's not like they're only roadway, they are kind of more multimodal. But that category of project is about 3/4 of them. Bike ped standalone projects was about 14-15%, followed by ITS, signals, and transit projects about 10%. And then all the remaining projects, which should be the smart trips, the safety program projects, or studies, a small number of projects standalone, 3%. We are in the process of constructing an ArcGIS Online map to kind of help you explore this. For the meeting, we had static maps and static tables. This will be more like a interactive version where you can zoom in, zoom out, click on something and get more information and feedback, and really just kind of use that information differently for everyday planning. So we're kind of in the process of building at it. Should be stood up and shared relatively soon. Next slide, if you don't mind. So work in progress right now would be confirming our revenue projections to 2050. We do have agreement with FHWA and TDOTs on those projections, so we're good to continue moving forward. The data-informed process to prioritize projects is underway to get those relative scores of the highest scoring projects up here down to the middle score, down to the lower score. And that relative priority will then be allowed to manually adjust and shift with local priority points on top of that to get us kind of a near-term, mid-term, long-term, or a 2030, 2040, 2050. That is the fiscally constrained process. Next slide kind of touches on more to the point. If we tried to put big round numbers to this, and we are obviously, we have very specific numbers, but these are just kind of the general ones. Let's say our revenues to 2050 are about $5.4 billion. Some of that's going to go to committed projects from the Tennessee 10-year plan or SPP, about 1.6 billion. Then the remainder will go to 2030, 2040, and 2050 in those amounts shown. The 500 million, the 1 billion, or the 2.3 billion individually. So then cumulatively just add those up, it's about 5.4. And then that would be signifying the end of the MTP. Those would be the fiscally constrained projects and amounts. Everything past that would be the illustrative, unfunded, or CTP needs moving forward. And that's where that cut line would sort of end. So that is the fiscal constraint component, and that's what we're trying to prioritize projects to find out which are above each of those, that line and each of those buckets, and which ones would fall below. Last slide, working backwards from adoption from the right-hand side, as Mike was speaking about the air quality conformity taking place in the spring in May, which means the MTP looks to be adopted in April, which means we'll have a public review period in the March to April timeline, an FHWA review period before that, some time to make edits. Prior to that, a TDOT review, which means we are delivering a very concise MTP for review and comment in December, which means we really are right here at the crunch time. So below that, we have finalized our list. We're working on the environmental screening and equity impacts, and we're working on that ArcGIS Online interface. So those items are in the works, and the prioritization process will help us get to that MTP resource. So that's what I have for an update. There's still a lot of plates spinning. I love being a consultant because it is about spinning plates, and we are delivering pieces and moving one step forward each day.
Thank you, Timothy. Any questions for Timothy? All right. No questions? Thank you, Timothy. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Other business.
I'll go ahead and take this. We have we're doing this a little bit different today. We have a couple of other items under our other business, and I think the first one up is TDOT and FHW updates. I think Stacy had some
Yes, sir.
slides.
Thank you, Doug. I'll go right here. Good morning again, Stacy Morrison, Community Transportation Planning Manager for TDOT. Elected officials should have received an email last Friday with an update. So hopefully everybody did receive that through the elected officials. If not, please let us know. We'll make sure that correspondence, it's like a statewide email that goes out from headquarters and try to, give out important information. And so I just wanted to reiterate that email, make sure everybody's clear. If anybody has questions, we'll be glad to try to answer what we can. So you want me to go up there and click, or can you click to me? You got me? Okay, thank you. Okay. Again, the 10-year plan update primarily. So again, what gets started gets finished is the goal of the 10-year plan. In the first year of project delivery, in the past, we were looking around 50%. In the first year, we were over 90%. So again, that's one of our primary goals. I think Region 1 was actually 100% of all their projects. And so congratulations to them for the success there. Obviously, we all heard and seen the news, the impact of Hurricane Helene. So damage to just our state facilities is over $500 million. And so obviously that's going to have an impact. Did want to talk a little bit about, we're in a great position. So our ability to respond really has helped the situation. And I congratulate all the successes that we've had in our response, especially here in Region 1. And there was folks from all 4 regions of TDOT that helped with that. So we're in good standing. And so that's good. The unknown is the emergency funding that we're applying for, when that will come, how much. That obviously will have an impact on our overall budget. So the timing of that is a little uncertain. As soon as we know something, we will get that information out as well. So the updated 10-year plan will be released in the spring, and the percentage of generally assembled in our upcoming annual legislative session. So if you recall last year, that information, we received it about this time last year, but with some unknowns there, we just wanted to let everybody know that, things will be a little bit delayed this year. Okay. Just clicking. So a little update on the statewide partnership program. There were several projects submitted within the TPO. And so thank you all for participating in that process. So that process was from July to August. And those are submitted to the MPOs. We get feedback from the MPOs to make sure that we're taking into account the priorities of the TPO. And so thank you all for those. So again, those projects are evaluated based on performance, deliverability, and cost. So again, that kind of factors into a lot of the things that are going on right now. Again, I've mentioned there that we're prioritizing those projects that are the MPO's priorities. And we appreciate those that are putting forth a significant financial investment locally to help projects move forward. So again, trying to leverage additional funds from the federal side, state side, and from you locally. So we appreciate that as well. To follow up as well, so as far as the development of future 10-year plans, the statewide partnership is a very important component that lets our legislature know. So all the ones that we get and, the ones that work out based on local partnerships, state dollars and federal dollars that we can get into the plan, those are great, but there's still a big need out there. So it's very important to let us know what those needs are. And that's what that's talking about there at the end. So we take that information to the legislature and say, we can fulfill this in our 10-year plan, but based on information we've received from the jurisdictions across the state, there's still X amount of dollars of need. And so that's why it's important for us to be able to have that information and to deliver that to the legislature so they understand what the needs are beyond what's in the 10-year plan. So hopefully that information was delivered well, and just wanted to reiterate that again to everyone, and we're glad to take some additional questions if y'all have or feedback. More to come, obviously, but we did want to make sure our messaging was clear. And Troy has a couple of things if nobody has questions for me. Thank you.
What I have for y'all, just so you're aware of it, and you may be already, TDOT has released a 3-year safety plan. So we've had projects that come out, we'll do road safety audits, and we use our, different highway safety funds for these. That plan has been released for the next 3 years. So you can go on there and look that up. So if you Google TDOT 3-year safety, you can find that information. There's a list of it. And I believe I've shared it with the MPOs as well. There's also, everyone has questions about the bridges as well. The bridge list is out, 3-year bridge list is out. Same thing, TDOT 3-year bridge plan. You Google that, that'll come up. If you can't find it, please send it to me. Or let me know and I'll make sure that you get that information. On the bridge side, there is a on system and off system bridges. So the on systems are the big TDOT bridges. But we work with the other ones as well. So if you look for updates, that information will be in there. And if you have specific questions about the projects, let me know. We'll get in touch with the right folks at the region. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone on from FHWA? Who wants to give an update? Okay, if not, I think Craig has a couple slides on the ADA transition plan.
Real quick, this is just a reminder for everyone that ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act transition planning is a requirement, and TDOT, everybody regionally has a transition plan, so good job on that. And if you have not submitted an update on the last 3 calendar years, which we have a few that are working on that, That is something that TDOT is requesting as you do continue to make improvements dictated by that transition plan, that you document your progress so that you can report that back at the end of this calendar year. If you have not submitted an update on that 3-year certification form since calendar 21, that it would be time to submit an update for that. That does just confirm the status of the transition plan, as well as providing a brief summary of updates, links to where the transition plan is posted on your agency website, and any changes to that ADA coordinator contact information, and is signed by the highest elected official in the municipality. A progress report is requested. There is no particular format required for that progress report, so there's, that is up to the agency on what they want to submit there. The TDOT ADA compliance contact, Shanna Chevalier, my French is probably bad, so I may have butchered that. TDOT.ADA compliance is the submission for that, and in the packet, a copy of that form for updating those informations to TDOT has been included. I think most of our communities, if you go to the TDOT ADA website, there's a spreadsheet there with communities. We're in pretty good shape. There are a few that are still have some updates, and I know they're generally aware of that, but if this was reminded to the technical committee as well. So just a reminder to take a look at that, and if you haven't submitted an update, get ready to do that this year.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a quick question, Craig, and that spreadsheet, or that may have the answer to my question. Are all communities on the same schedule? In other words, are we developed our plans at different times, but are we all on a 3-year schedule at about the same time, or does it vary?
We are not. It is a variety.
Okay.
People have, some people submitted elements in 22. So we've got some that have recently submitted them very recently. I think when I checked, I think we have 4 that are in red. You need to submit an update this year. Other people are, if you wanted to go ahead and submit an update to get on the cycle, that's fine. But again, that's not a requirement.
And then beyond that, it is a 3-year interval period. You wouldn't yearly give a previous 3-year. You would give every 3-year an assessment. So
yes, that is my understanding. I would just remind in that 3-year interval period, because it's a long time between there, I point you to bullet point number 2 under the first one. Document your progress regularly so that you can easily report that back. And it is just a nice reminder to kind of keep it fresh as well as you're moving forward, that you're making progress.
If there's no other questions for Craig, I have just a few other things I wanted to run through with you. From the US DOT FHWA side, there's a couple of NOFOs out there. The Protect Grant Award, it's out, and it's if you're going to apply for that, it's due February 24th of 25. And then the RAISE Grant is out, and there's 2 deadlines for that. If you had already applied, and there's a December 2nd if you want to reapply deadline, and then if you're a new applicant, it's January 30th of 25. If you need any assistance with that, let us know. And also, if you do apply, let us know. We'd like to be informed on what is going on. And then just hot off the press, we had several SS4A safety planning awards. Knox County got notified they received one, Friendsville, which is in our area, and then Alcoa. So congratulations on those. There are a few others in the surrounding area. I think Mike said Union County got one, so they're not in our planning area, but there are some other ones out there. We have heard through the grapevine with the changeover at the presidential and cabinet and all that the Biden administration is pushing out a lot of the grants and funding in the next 2 months. So if you, sometimes those will have to come through the TPO. Sometimes it can be a simple thing Craig can do as a modification. It might end up being that we have to do an amendment. So if you get any word in your jurisdiction that some of that's going to have to occur, please let us know as soon as possible. I saw that President-elect Trump nominated Sean Duffy as the transportation secretary. He's a former congressman from Wisconsin. We don't know anything else about him, but we'll find out as we go along. In Trump's 4-year term, they will have to update the Infrastructure Act goes to fiscal year 26. So they'll have to do an update to that. And they'll probably start working on it very soon. They're probably working on it already now, but some of the sections will change over, so we'll have to see how that goes. And then with any time there's a new changeover, there'll be different cuts, or last time Trump pushed off EV type stuff, he will change environmental policy. But if you catch wind of anything, we've had to work, this is not just with any time there's a changeover, we've had to work sometimes with our congressional delegation to stick up for a program we like or something we want. So if you catch word that, hey, there's some funding that could be impacted and it'll impact my community, let us know. We can work together and working with our congressional delegation. We don't know if we're going to have a December meeting. We try not to have one. We'll let you know soon. It would only probably have one if something comes through of immediate need to get amended into the TIP. And then also in your packet is the meeting list for next year. And be sure you check through it. There's a couple little changes with some of the way the holidays fall and the way spring break and fall break. We had to adjust a couple, I think mainly on the tech side. I know some of you are also on the tech, so it should be in your packet. And so just be sure you check that. And I guess that's all I had. Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, has anyone signed up for public comment? All right, anything else to come before the board? All right, unless there is an objection, we will stand adjourned. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.